I'll tell you, this is a little bit nostalgic for me. This is called the Jig Worm. And it had to be 20 years ago. Keith Gavice and I worked with the Berkley team. We're going to try to design some plastics for walleyes, right? It was a kind of a earth-shattering sort of thing because it just wasn't done. One of the shapes that came out of that was a 3-inch minnow, which has been around forever and has caught every species of fish you can imagine. It's one of the most popular tails that Berkley makes. Another was a 6-inch nightcrawler, which worked really well. But this is called the Jig Worm. It lasted probably 5 or 6 years. I didn't think I'd ever see the Jig Worm again. But they made a decision about a year ago to come out with the Jig Worm again. This is really quite the bait. It's deadly on river systems for vertical jigging. It has a flat bottom, so it really displaces a lot of water. When you're vertical jigging, that tail flips up and down and up and down. And when you hold it steady, it vibrates a lot, especially in the current. But where it really shines, to me, is in casting. It was last week, actually. I went to a favorite lake near my house. I just got all the packages of the Jig Worms, and I casted it for maybe the first time in 10 years. On the second cast, I felt the tick, set the hook, and I got a nice walleye. At the end of the day, I had 35 fish on this tail. It's still a player. The difference is, instead of the few nightcrawler colors that we had in those days, this bait's going to be in the Pro Series of tails that Berkley's just come out with. The Pro Series of tails has, I think, up to 16 colors. There's a huge variety of colors to choose from, and that's where the excitement comes for me. I already know this bait catches fish better than almost any other plastic out there. It's a walleye killer, and smallies just can't resist it. But what I didn't have ever at my disposal were colors that were this rockin' good. Basically, you just pitch it out. I like to fish it on Fireline or Nanofill so I can feel the tick bites from a long distance away, let it settle to the bottom, and the basic stroke is to lift and hold and let that jig worm swim back to you. But I like to even put a little bit more action into it. It really works well, but at the end I always hold so that I can let that jig free float to the bottom, because that allows that bait to kind of settle down and swim slowly to the bottom. And the neat thing about a jig worm is that flat bottom that I showed you. Sometimes when it's swimming down, it'll go straight, but other times it'll cream off to the side. It's got kind of an erratic action. And I really think that's what makes the jig worm such an effective fish catcher on a cast. So for those guys who fished this bait 20 years ago, it's back. And for those of you who have never fished it before, it's here.